Welcome back to Insights at DDLynn Designs, a unique twist in the ancient art of wire. With the coming holiday in March, St. Patrick's Day, very, very popular in Ireland, I thought it would be so fun to make a 3-leaf clover. And this is meant to be organic, it's not meant to be symmetrical, and you can do so many things with this. It's not just limited to this. I wanted to keep it simple because where is that piece I had out earlier? I don't know what I did with it. Because another piece that I did that's very detailed would take probably a couple hours to do. So I thought just for the fun of it, we would do a cute little, clover leaf, little 3-leaf clover, and we're going to get started. If you're new to my channel, I am very detail oriented. Everything to me is all about technique in this wonderful ancient art of wire. And if you are new to wire art, I encourage you to really look up the history of the ancient art of wire. It predates the Phoenicians by 5,000 years. And here's a little news. I was reading again just recently that they would use wire, not just, wire wrapping like around a fence or something, but they would do wire wrapping in the breastplates of Roman soldiers. They were found in Egyptian tombs. It's amazing, the history on it. So I really respect it, and I respect all those that have dedicated thousands and thousands of hours into mastering this art. And so we're going to get started. So I do want to give you another example. This is a 4-leaf clover. This would take a while. It's not even done. And then I have another large one. Let me see if I can find it. Just always want to give you inspiration. So here's one I did quite some time ago, and it's similar to this. So this is a much smaller version. And I have an agate in the middle and these cute little crystal rhinestones. And then I made this little chain to highlight and match the little golden crystal rhinestones around it. So just use your imagination. You can go so many places with clovers, but we're going to make this little darling. So let's get started. So the first thing that I did is I cut myself 10 inches of 20 gauge round dead soft wire. You can also use square, but I like round better because on these I hammered. So I hammered this. And then just to make it even more organic looking, I kind of bent some of the corners up a little bit. So what you're going to do is I would draw a little heart. I can't sketch worth a dang, so it's just an outline for me. And I'm going to use this schematic to help me start my shape. You can do it all by hand. This one I did... Oh, I can't find it. I have another one here that I did. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your round nose or 6-step bail making pliers, and you're going to find the center, and I'm going to really try to stay in frame here. So you're going to find the center, and I'm going to use my number 2. And I'm just very gently going to bend it forward. I'm not making a deep V, just bending it forward. So we have this, right? So then, to make my life easier, because I'm going to set this here and start to use this little schematic as my little pattern to start my shape, then most of it is going to be by hand from there. So to make life a lot easier for yourself, and you could at this point if you wanted to hammer this, but I don't want a really deep V in there. So I'm just going to use my thumb and give myself a head start. So I'm going to make a little curve. Do the same thing, always turn your work around, and I'm going to give myself a little head start. So basically, I've made myself a little bird with very long wings. So now I'm going to put this down on my paper, and I'm going to get my paper in a really good working position, and I'm going to scoop these down even more. Or scoop them up, I should say. There we go. So I'm going to put this there in my heart, and then I'm going to turn my paper in a good working position, excuse me, because I want to be able to lift up on this wire. Now you can't see how far out it's coming here, but I'm gonna lift up on the wire. So my hand is sliding up underneath here. So, because I'm gonna use my hand in the back to support the wire as I have it lifted up, and I'm gonna hold it over the center mark, and I'm gonna use my thumb, and I'm gonna start curling that wire around. Then I'm using my index finger to swing it in. And I'm just gonna take it straight over. Then I'm gonna turn my work around because I'm right dominant, so I always not wanna fight the wire. I wanna work with the wire, so I need to go in directions that are comfortable for me. And as before, I'm just gonna get my thumb up underneath there, start that curve again, and then swing that wire around. So let's turn it around. And don't be concerned if one side is higher than the other. This is a clover. So I'm gonna swing this side in a little bit more and move this out of the way for a second. And I'm just gonna get my 6-step bail making plier to do that. And I'm just gonna roll it in. And then I'm gonna squeeze the middle down by holding the two sides and just pushing down a little bit, just making a little bit more shape there. I'm gonna get my flat nose and just right there in the middle, squeeze this side down a little bit. And just remember, it's very organic. So we've got this. It's like a wonky heart, right? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get, and as I mentioned, I'm very detail oriented. Let me get my paper down. Hope the lighting's okay here. And we're gonna mark the middle. So how you know to make it even, the wire that's coming on top, okay, you wanna mark to the inside. So think of the wire underneath, they're both crossing over, and I'm gonna mark to the inside of the top of that wire. And then I'm gonna mark to the inside of the bottom wire, the wire that's below. So now I'm going to bend this wire up and over to where it's parallel with my little clover petal here. And I'm gonna be using what's called it's kind of like a half round plier. So these are by Zeron. I'm not plugging them. I should get paid by them. But one side is flat. See the flat jaw on there? And the other side is round. And what's really, really great about having a half round nose plier is that when we're using round nose and you have two round noses on each side, if you've been wrapping or, for a while, you'll realize how easy it is to ding your wire. By having a flat side, you can support the wire without dinging into it and be using the round nose to create your shape or your loop. So I'm gonna put the flat behind, so it's underneath the wire. And I'm coming back behind my line, and you don't have to be super precise, and I'm just gonna press this straight up and over to where it's parallel with the other wire. So we will have this. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my flat nose, and you want not thin tipped flat nose, you want something that's got a good girth on it. And I'm just gonna open this up a little bit to give myself some working room. And I'm going to squeeze down on this, but I'm not going to close it off. So I'm just gonna squeeze down because we need that gap space later on for weaving. Very gentle movements. So now I'm gonna do the same thing over here. I'm gonna put the flat side of my plier down. If you're using a round nose, that's fine too. And I'm coming right above my mark. And then this is an awkward position for me, but I'm going to push it over. So I'm gonna turn it around and push it down to where it's parallel with itself. So we have this. And then I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna squeeze that in a little bit. Now you can just rock them back and forth to line them up. So this is the starting of our little clover. And again, don't get caught up on symmetry. This isn't about symmetry. So now I want to stay in frame here. And it's really hard sometimes because I move my hands so much. And I'm now scooting my chair a lot. I'm sure you can hear me too as I'm hopping up and down. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to open this wire up a little bit. Now here's another technique or tip. You can take a ruler if you're concerned about where you want to start shaping your wire. And let me correct something here. There we go. Just tilting that down a little bit. Okay, so you can either take a ruler to see where you want to start your bend, where the angle is coming off where this arc is right here, to kind of give you an idea, or you can just eye it. So I'm going to pull this away a little bit, and then I'm going to start, like, see where the arch is in our little clover heart here? I'm going to start here, and then I'm just going to eye it and follow the height of this one. And then I'm going to scoop it around. So now I'm going to get my little schematic here, and you see where this is lining up here? I'm going to take this, hold here, and swing that wire around because I want to determine my spacing here, okay? So I want to make sure that it's not too wide. Then I'm going to get my half round, half flat, whatever you call this plier. And I'm going to look at that, and I'm looking at the distance between the two of them. And I'm just going to come approximately center, and all I'm going to do is bend this up. I'm just making a little bend there. You see that? So if it's wonky at all, don't worry about it. We can round all that out. And then I'm just going to use my hand. And I'm just going to curl that in. Then I'm going to turn it in a better working position, and I'm going to start to push that in. And you're going to see it start to form and shape. And I'm just going to start pushing and pulling in. So we've got our other little clover here. Now, if you don't like something about it, or you want more dimension to it, or you want a side higher or lower, you can always bring in your plier. You can make so many adjustments on this. It's really, really easy to do. And just roll this in more. So see how I'm rolling my plier towards me and just creating a little bit more of shape in there. Then I'm going to come down into the middle and bend that in. So I've just got a little bit of a different shape. And then I'm going to pull that wire down. And now we've created even more of a little heart clover shape there. And it is whatever it ends up being for you. So please don't get caught up in that, all right? So as before, I'm going to get my plier. I'm going to put the flat side down below, so it's underneath. And I'm going to lift up on this wire first. Always give yourself working room. And then I'm going to push it over. Then I'm going to get my flat nose, and I'm going to turn this wire out a little bit. And I'm going to squeeze it down very gently, but I don't want to close off that gap in its entirety. So we've got our little right side here going on. Now here's another technique. I'm all about technique, you guys. This is really what's going to accelerate your journey in this ancient art of wire, is how things are done. Not so much making and completing a project, but how is it done? So I'm going to move this wire out of the way a little bit. And as before, I'm coming up underneath and I'm making a scoop. Then I'm going to look at my distance. That's way too far out. So I'm just going to roll this wire in, and I may make this one a little bit smaller. You know, it just depends. So now, as before, I'm going to get the flat side, and we won't need this anymore. I've been using it as a chart. Let me get this out of the way. Okay. Do you guys like the white better? Maybe I'll leave that, but turn it around. No, I'll just leave it like this. All right, so I'm going to get the flat part of the nose, and I want to open this up, swing it down a little bit. Underneath, and then I'm going to swing this up. I'm just going to make a little bend in it. And then as before, I'm just going to roll this in. So let me turn around towards the back so you can see. So I'm working off this curve right here. And I'm just rolling it in. And you find whatever works for you. And there we go. We've got our little clover. And we'll be making adjustments here, but remember, it's organic. It's a flower, right? Now, I realize that I want this wire on top. So how I'm going to back out of that is I'm just going to open up my clover. Just going to open it up and then swing my wire around to the back. So that's another technique. And then I'm going to start swinging it back in. And you have a lot of room here to make adjustments. So now I'm going to start centering this all up by rocking it back and forth. I'm going to pitch this one back a little bit. At this point, it's just personal preference. I don't want this to look perfect. I just want it to look, did I just do that again? No, I'm good. Okay. So I'm just lining it all up. I'm going to pitch this down a little bit more, and I'm just rolling on the wire. I'm holding it very firmly and just turning it in the direction that I want. So now as before, I'm lining up here, okay? So I'm lining up right here. You're going to put your plier. See how my tip's hitting this other corner here? Just kind of gives you a guide. Then I'm going to lift up on that wire to give myself some working room, and I'm going to push it over. Now I'm going to start lining them all up. Then I'm going to get my flat nose, and I'm going to anchor this out a little bit, and then I'm going to give it a gentle squeeze. Remember, we don't want it closed. So now we've got our darling little clover. And once we attach it, you can make more adjustments on it if you want, but I personally like that. Each one is a little different. So it's just all about giving character to it and, you know, not making it perfect and symmetrical. So let me tell you about your options here. I'm always going to give you inspiration because you can really go anywhere you want. When you're doing things of this nature, it's just so easy, whether it's a pendant or not, it's just really easy to start taking off and saying, well, what if I did this or what if I did that? If you didn't want to make a stem, I twisted this one down here. And on this one that I actually took apart, I weaved it. So that's the clover that I took apart, that I weaved the bottom into a stem. You could also, once you attach these, you could just make a little bail, or you could make a loop, or you could just weave them together a little bit and make two little loops down here. So you would just have two tiny little loops down on the bottom here, inside here. So you can really go anywhere. So I'm going to get my plier here, and I'm going to anchor this wire towards the middle a little bit more. And I'm just rocking it, seeing how things are lining up. And then I'm just manipulating the wire. It's soft enough to do that, where I want to make sure everything's kind of centering up. And again, because it's organic, don't worry about if the wires are lining up perfectly. We can bend them and shape them and do anything we want with them. So I'm going to pitch this side up. And I'm going to do that by grabbing, let me get this over here. I'm just seeing how I'm going to push it down in the middle, which is going to pitch it up. See how I made a cuter little dent there? Because it's a clover. So maybe I'm going to hold this and swing this over just a little bit. It's just all personal preference at this point. So now I'm going to, instead of twist these, I'm going to weave them together. So I'm going to cut myself about, because I'll be using it all, 2 feet of 28 gauge wire. Can't see me right now because I'm cutting my wire. Don't want to bore you with all of that, right? I want to make sure I'm staying in frame here. I just fight so much with it, you guys. It's not easy. I'm sure somebody has some kind of master technique. I tape, I do everything, and then my hands start moving towards me. So I'm going to come over and, I'm sorry. Go this way because I realized I did flip my wires in the opposite direction. So you know what? I think I'll just use one wire then, and I won't need that much. I am thinking out loud. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, since it's in half, I'm just going to start weaving with one wire instead of 2. And right in here, I'm going to weave my wire, making coils, and I'm going to attach them. So I'm going to do 4 coils on this side, and I'm holding my thumb down here underneath the coils because I don't want it sliding around to the other side where it ends up on the heart. And I'm looking for my needle nose. I'm going to bring, see how it wants to slide? So I'm going to come around. Let's see. It's the wire in the back that's dragging it down. So I'm going to get my thumb right there. So it can't keep doing that. What I need to do is lift this wire through here so I'm not dragging on it. There we go. That's what I mean about when we're fighting our wire. Now I got a hold of my tail. And now I'm going to bring these 2 wires together. And I'm going to do a figure 8. So I'm going to create a coil. Then I'm going to turn it around so I can see what I'm doing, because now I'm back on the front or back. Could end up being one or the other at this point. And I'm going to do 4 coils. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start doing a figure 8. That's all I'm going to start doing. So you can leave them spread apart. And so let me give you some more inspiration. You could weave them closer to the petal side here and start scooping them around the petal and then bringing them back in. You know, just let your creativity really take you away. I'm going to start bringing mine in. They're a little too far apart for me. And I'm going to create some shape on mine. So I brought that closer in. Just want to make sure I don't have any gap in the back. And I got to stand up for a minute to make sure I'm staying right on this heart. You know what I'm going to do, you guys? I'm going to tape it down this piece of paper because it keeps moving. And of course, I don't have my Scotch tape. So I'm just going to tape it down in this corner so it stops moving around on me. Sorry about all the noise. Okay, so let's get busy. So I'm going to bring my wires closer together and I'm just going to start shaping them in. Because you can do any shape you want. I might on this one make some loops. I don't know. This is all freestyle. I was playing with wire yesterday and I said, let me see if I can make a clover. It's not something I do a lot, but meaning I don't really, it's just my style. I don't get into holidays a lot when it comes to making things just because it's the holiday. But St. Patrick's Day is such a fun day, like Valentine's Day. So it's really fun to make things, you know, in tribute to the holiday. Anyways, so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking I want to change my shape. So I'm actually going to weave one more time around this other side and see if that's when I want to do it. And I'm just making my 4 coils. And I'm doing 4 full repeats. So I'm thinking I want this to swing off a little bit. So I'm just using my fingernail and I'm scooping this wire in and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to scoop it in and then I'm just looking at that shape and I'm holding the tail down here, okay? So I'm holding down here with my hand and I'm using my index finger to scoop them in even more. And I'm going to have this little shape here, so I'm going to turn it up. You could do this after you weave, but I'm just doing it this way for now. I always change up. There's never really rhyme or reason. So I'm just going to make my little tail, slide those up. Sometimes you might want to turn around to the back and make sure they're slid up good. So there's my 4th rotation, and I'm just doing a figure 8, and then I'm pushing them up each time. Now I'm seeing something else, and I'm thinking about crossing them over, or crossing this one under, and then bringing them back around. Wouldn't that be cute? So maybe I'll do that as I get closer to this curve. So this is what I mean. It's just all artistic freedom and just playing with your wire. That's how you are going to learn so many different things by just not being afraid and saying, I wonder what happened if I did this. Now I'm thinking I might not have enough wire. See my tail getting short there as I'm stopping and pulling it down and through. And I just saw that I crossed over the back there. But still crossed over? No. Let me see. Yep, I am. It's hard to see. It's the time of day. It's about 5 o'clock. I just closed my blind so that I didn't get the shadows that are coming in where the sun is sitting. Actually, we're on the planet that the sun isn't sitting anywhere. I just crack myself up. What can I say? It's funny, all the illusions that we have. The sun is not sitting, the sun is not rising, and the sun is not setting. So now I'm looking at this and I'm going to go a couple more and then I think I'm going to cross them over and I'm probably going to have to bring in wire, which is fine, and I'll show you how I do that. And it's quite easy when you're doing 4 coils to bring in extra wire. Did I go through? Pardon me, you guys. It's the time of day. It's very dry here in Sedona. I don't know about you guys or where you're at. I'm in Arizona. We have had the warmest winter I can ever remember 8 years living here. literally. It's like I was in shorts today hiking. Okay, I'm going to cross this over. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this wire under right here. So I'm bringing it under, and I'm going to show you. Then I'm going to curve this way. I'm pre-shaping my wire. Then I'm going to continue with that weave pattern. And if you notice, I'm shaping my wire first, so I'm going over. Okay, so here's another technique. Then coming around, I just put memory in that wire. That way it slides up underneath much easier. So I'm going over, then I'm coming back underneath because this is the wire I want to continue to coil around, my wire below, and I'm just going to go over, then back around. I put memory in that wire. Makes it so much easier to accomplish what I want. And I am going to even swing this up even more. Now here's another technique. Many times we need to move our wire in the opposite direction, further away than where we intend to go, because I'm going to want this to go this way. So I'm moving it away from me so that when I'm ready to scoop it around, it'll make it much easier for me to accomplish what I'm thinking of. It doesn't always work that way, but that's how we learn. So now I'm just tucking in between these, and I'm going to do just a couple more here. So I'm going to bring my wire over, then back up underneath, because remember I'm coiling the bottom wire. And I'm going to be running out, and it's working out to be perfect timing of how I'm running out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap this wire off the back, and we've got this really cute stem going on. I'm just going to do a wiggle jiggle, snap it clean off. It breaks right in between all those wires and you don't feel a thing. So I'm thinking about the shape that I want to put on this. Sorry, you guys, I had to get up. All right, so now I'm going to swing this wire over. And I'm going to keep this one up higher, so I'm holding in the back because I want them still to cross. And then I'm going to swing this wire over the top of this one. Just swinging it over. And this is going to be my little stem. So it really worked out great, me running out of wire there. All I'm doing right now is just creating some shape. Just shape. That's all I'm doing. Just shaping the wire, looking at it and saying, where do I want you to go? I'm going to curl this up, just like that. Then I'm going to take this wire off the back that I have. If you remember, I cut 24 inches or 2 feet, got a little kink down here. And I'm just going to hold very firmly and do a wiggle, jiggle, and snap that wire. Oh, it didn't snap off. Oh, that's because it's on the outside. So here's another tip. If the wire that you want to snap off is on the outside and not in between two wires, it's not going to snap off clean. At least that has been my experience. It has to be in between two wires so it has the resistance of both wires holding it in. So that one I'm going to tuck in. So now I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to make a coil. And do I want to coil off of that? I don't know. I'm thinking about, do I want to coil off of this one? Or do I just want to start coiling here? And I think I just want to start coiling here. So here's another technique. Instead of coiling, starting your coiling back here, since you've got this excess wire here, go ahead and start your coils here. So I typically will do 10, and I just wrap, 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 and then I slide them together, get my tail up there, and then I just move them down a little bit. You don't want too much space between here and the tip or you'll jackknife your wire. So I'm just holding firmly on my weaving And I'm just going to wrap, just keep wrapping. Then I'm going to slide them down. Then I'm going to move them down my leg a little bit to see how much I'm going to need here in a minute. Then I'll slide it all the way down. And you can see how I've already kind of bent that a little bit. So I'm just going to keep wrapping. And I'm going to slide them down. So I've made about a 1/2 inch. So let's start there and see if I have to uncoil or recoil. Oh, that's going to be so cute. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this wire, okay? So I'm going to follow it simply by holding out here, okay? So I'm out here, I'm anchoring off, and I'm just putting pressure on it and telling it where I want it to go. And this is just lined up so beautifully. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to connect, and I'm pushing my coils down. Don't want them sliding to where, you know, I'm exposing the bare wire under here, although that would be perfectly fine. So I've got my wire coming underneath. So I'm just going to connect these two together so they do not have the possibility of coming apart. Then I'm going to come back through. I'm going to open this up to give me some working room. And then I'm going to go over this wire. Where's my wire at? Couldn't see it there for a minute. Push those in good and tight. So that's almost 2 feet of weaving wire to accomplish what we just did here. And I'm going to slide these together. So let me look at that. That's perfect. So I'm going to snap this off. I don't know if it will. Well, it will if I turn it to where it's trapped maybe. If not, then I'll clip it. Did it snap off clean? It most certainly did. So what a cute little stem that is, huh? And you could hang it this way, y'all, if you wanted to. I wanted to get more decorative than on the one, and I don't know where it went, probably on the floor, the one that I posted. This one. I wanted to get a little bit more decorative. But isn't that cute? And they're all different because it's a clover. So on this one, I'm just going to, this outside wire here, I'm just going to pull it in. Then I'm going to clip it. And I think I'm going to take it just a little bit more. Yeah. Then I'm going to get my round flat nose. I'm holding very firmly on the entire piece, right on that tip, and I'm going to smash that tip and curl it in. I'm smashing it and curling it. And then I'm just going to curl, make a little tiny curl. So we got this little curl here. And then this one, I'm still debating. I'm either going to bring it around the back, or I was also thinking of bringing it around the front and making a little curl there. Or I think I'm going to bring it around the back. So I'm going to pull it in even tighter. And I'm going to do a couple more coils. I'm spending a whole lot of time on the stem. Just want it. So see how I'm going to fold that over? So make a couple more. Once you bend that wire, makes it harder to coil around it. So you just gotta manipulate it a little bit. And I think that's good enough. Just wanted to keep it coiling around. So, just going to snug that back, and I'm going to tighten those coils up. So I'm rolling in the direction of where the coils are going. So I was rolling in that direction. And then this time I'm going to snip this off. And I'm cutting it on the back. And I'm going way back because I'm going to stretch it over that wire. I'm rolling off of it. How can I show you this? Okay, right here. So here's where I cut it. It's in the back, so I'm not on the back right now. And I'm just going to hold right here on that wire, and I'm going to roll it in. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, and I've been looking at this, do I want to feed it through here, or do I just want to tie it off on the back? And I think I'm going to bring it over, and this is just all as I go. And I am going to hide it behind itself so that we have this darling little stem. And I'm actually going to curve this up more. Oh, I like that even better. It's all personal preference. So you see how the wire is coming to the coil. Let me stand up so I can show you. So I've rolled this wire, so let's start in the front. I rolled the wire over. And now it's resting over the coil itself. I'm going to cut below that. I'm not going to cut it to where it's touching the coil. I'm going to cut on the inside. Then I'm just going to get my flat nose. And I'm going to fold it inside that coil. So I'm just hiding it. And that's our darling little clover stem. You can just go anywhere. Okay, so now we're going to put in our beads. And on this one, I used round brioles. And on this, because I don't have any more of those, I'm going to use cone beads. So these are little green crystal cone beads. They're going to sit differently. And they're not very big. I'd say they're about 4 millimeter. So I'm going to cut myself, let's see. For my first rep, I'm going to do 2 feet of wire. This should be able to weave in everything we need. I'm going to fold my wire in half. And I know if I stay right here where this little heart is, I will stay. I will stay in focus and try not to move my hands around so much, right? So I want my wire to come out on top. Now, if they're too close together and you can't, because we're going to come in between where we bent. Remember, I said we need that gap space. So I want my wire to come out on top. So meaning over the front of the wire. So I'm going to start, I'm going to pull the tail back this way just to have an anchor. And I'm going to start feeding this wire through. And I'll know how many coils I need when I put my bead back in there to see how it's setting. So I'm just coiling, coming in between. Now I'm going to get my bead. And this one is where? Okay. And I'm just going to slide this up a little bit. And then I'm going to put my bead in here to see how, because it's a bicone, how it's going to set in there. This is very different than the rounds. The rounds are a lot easier. They set in there nicely, but I didn't have any more of those green rounds, y'all. And I wanted to do it with green, so we'll just live with however it turns out. But you know the difference between the rounds and the bicones. And those are little 4 millimeter rounds. So let's see. I may have to come underneath. I'm going to pull these closer together. Or actually, I might need a bigger bead because that's going to move around in there. I'm looking at that. It may not on these, but let me see. I've got some bigger ones. Hold on, but I thought they were too big. I'll be right back. Okay, so I found some other ones, but the holes were way too big. So what I did is I spun my wire around. So instead of the wire coming on top, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's coming from behind. So the wire's coming up underneath and the bead's gonna rest in the back. Okay, and this way I'll be able to pull it in tighter. And there's also another trick, but with the wire coming over, it was creating too much of an arc in the wire. This way, I'm able, this is what I mean by working with what you have, trying to figure out another way to make it work, right? So this time I'm pulling that wire in between these two petals here. So here's the wire in the back, coming in between. I'm going to slide that down a little bit more so I can really pull it in there tightly. I'm holding really firmly because I'm going to try to avoid as much gap on that wire, and then I am pushing, pushing down. And that's in there pretty tight. So I'm happy with how that turned out. And so that's one of the great things about this unbelievable art, is always being able to modify and work with what you have. So if you notice, I'm just pushing that wire through there. Instead, well, now that I made a tangle mess on myself here, instead of having to feed the whole thing through. So let me take a look at that. That turned out pretty good. I'm happy with that. So you can make as many quills as you want, but now I'm going to wrap another bead, and I want it to come, I think, underneath. Let me see how this bicone is going to sit in there. Yep. So I'm going to take this wire. It's coming out the back, right? And it's riding up. I'm going to go underneath the petal, and then I'm going to push my wire through. Get this guy out of the way. And then I'm going to wrap, and I'm going to push that wrap way down. So I'm pushing it way down with my fingernail. And I'm going to feed it through. Coming in between. Now let me see where you want to come around the back and really push that down. Let me see where my bicone's going to sit. So that's the back. I'm determining whether or not I need any more wraps down here in the back. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to pull this up, slide my bead off, and feed that through. You want to keep a healthy loop on your wire as you're feeding it through so you don't kink it up. Am I going in the right direction here? Yeah. This is my front. Okay, now I'm going to put that bicone through. And I think it's all going to work out just fine. If I don't lose it. So I'm really cranking down on that wire. Now you can coil up as much as you want, you guys. I'm just for the sake of this tutorial, I want you to use your own artistic freedom and just getting the basics down of making this clover, right? So I think really push that down in there. You don't want these wobbling around. So you could bring in other wire. We're going to weave in between these petals right here, okay? So you could bring in other wire and weave halfway up. You could add little tiny pearls inside of here. It's really whatever you imagine. So I'm going to bring that through one more time. And I'm going to hold super firm and do my wiggle jiggle and snap it off. So now we're going to set our last one. And this is coming down. So I want to see how my bicone, I was standing up there, y'all, so I could see what I was doing. And I'm going to actually snap this wire off here. I'm not going to use the existing wire because I want my coils down further. So I'm just holding super firm and I'm going to snap it off. And then I'm going to bring in my wire and I'm going to make my coils. Crossed over. I'm going to pull this one in the back really good. I'm going to lift up on these. I'm going to open this up so that I can slide this wire down. There we go. So I just slid it down. I'm on the back now, and I'm going to bring in my bicone. Oh, that's one round one. I had one round left. I wish I had more of those, but I don't. They're so pretty. Those were little Japanese crystals I got years ago. Okay. So let's see how she's sitting in there. And she's sitting pretty. So I got to lift up on this. I need to give myself working room because my stemmen is in the way. So I'm going to lift up on it so that I can get my wire down here. Then I'm going to feed it through. Then I'm going to really slide that down. So I probably could have made some more coils over here. And I might add coils, you guys, you know, just to match up all the coils. But I just want you to get, you know, the overall concept down. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a little bit. But we're going to weave these two sides together. So that's going to compensate for that, which I forgot about. So I've got this wire on the back. And I'm just going to hold very firmly. And this little tiny piece, not even a 1/4 inch long, I'm going to snap it off. And look at our clover. Isn't she pretty? She's pretty with the bicones. I just think they're so cute. I really want to hear your feedback, you guys. Remember, it takes 1 second to give me a thumbs up. And if you like my free tutorials, you can buy me a cup of coffee with my PayPal link in my description. That would be awesome. So I'm going to feed this through the last time. And I'm going to take this wire off. And if I hold it really tight, I should be able to snap it because it's on the outside, and I was. Great. So now let's go ahead and weave these together. I forgot about compensating for that, so that worked out great. You're probably going, what is she talking about? So I'm going to start on this side, and I'm going to I'm using my excess wire, some coils, and I'm going to do a 4-coil figure 8 weave. Oh, that got caught up on my tape. Okay, I'm going to have to feed it through because I'm hardening my wire. All right, that's lined up pretty good right there. So let me go around the back. I'm going to slide this down. So now we're going to do a figure 8. So I'm on the back. I'm going to come in between. Slide it down and feed it through. Then I'm going to make 4 coils. Just making myself a little loop there. I find it easier. I don't like to feed a lot of feet of wire through anything, but you do whatever works for you. How many is that on front? Got 1 more. In any weave pattern that you prefer, I'm just doing a figure 8. I'm coming back through the middle, okay, which is going to push me around to the front. Now it's getting short enough to where I can start feeding it through. Now I'm going to come back through the middle because we're crossing over. It's a figure 8. And I'm going to go ahead while I'm down here, hold very firmly, and I am going to snap this wire. There we go. That was my little tail wire. So I'm going to do this side, then I'll do the other side off camera. But it just starts coming to life the more we add to it. Isn't that pretty? It's just so pretty. You could literally coil all the way up if you wanted. But I don't want to cover it. Now, I didn't hammer these edges, but you could. I hammered these. If you like it just soft, the wire just soft like that, absolutely fine. That's the whole thing behind this. It's just organic and free and very sweet. Felt myself cross over back there. So I'm just crossing over, and you can go up as high as you want. I'm going to keep going a little bit. And here's a little trick. If you notice here what I'm doing with my finger to keep my wire in a good loop as I'm feeding it through, then I'm releasing my finger from the loop. Is that 4? That's 3. Okay, so I'm going to have to start doing it in a different way because as we get further apart and closer to the top, you don't want to cross your wires over. So this is my front. Isn't that the cutest? Just so cute. Should we do one more, Or does that look good? Now you could bring this, let me give you more inspiration. As you're crossing over here, you could bring this and just coil up this one side. So I'll show you how that will change it. It just takes time. And it just gives it more dimension. So if you just want to do a corner on each petal, so you know how to weave the two sides together. So I don't need to bore you with that. But isn't that cute? Now see how it's changing it? So on this one over here, you could just coil up this side, the opposite side, which is going to create balance, but also the illusion of different kinds of, what's the word for that? I can't think of it. I was just at a gallery and this lady was telling me about that. We were talking about light and the shadows and the way she uses white when she paints and how depth, creating depth. That's the word I was looking for. Anyways, it was really cool. So as we're coming up here, if you can imagine your coils. So we've got these coils here. Now these two will be weaved together and then you'll have coils here. So see, they're in opposite direction and then you can leave everything else open or not. You can bend this down more in the middle and hang a little bead from it. But isn't this adorable? So you just keep playing. And if you don't like it, you can do what I do. You take it apart. I take a lot of stuff apart. I'm like, I don't like that. Or I'll modify it. I try to modify everything now. I'm like, okay, what can I do? I'm not liking the way this looks. And as you evolve and advance, and if there's any advanced artists watching this, then they know exactly what I'm going to say. You get a very critical eye. Let me show you my first piece 4.5 years ago. That is a river rock in the Sedona riverbed where I hike every day. I've got wires loose here, and my bale is just a hot mess. It was the very first piece I ever wrapped, and it was a rock. So there was no smooth sides, and it was shaped like a heart. So, but you know what? I keep it here to remind me of how far I've come, because we can get really hard on ourselves and we have to remember to be gentle. So I just had to share that with you. So you can stop right here because I like that little bend there, or you can just go to the center. Or let me show you something else. This is cool too. You can separate your wire, and this creates such a fun. So see what I'm doing here? I'm going to slide this back, but I'm not letting my coils right up against each other. I'm pulling the wire out on an angle, and you're going to see how cute this is. Very pretty. Then I'm going to line them up, but I don't want them touching. I want space between them. Then I'm going to pull this around. Can you see it start to transform? And I'm just lining my spacing up. That's all I'm doing as I'm going in. So you could do something like that, and then you could take that all the way down. And I'm going to angle these off even more. Kind of want to have them on an angle. Sorry. So I'm using my fingernail to angle them down more. There we go. I didn't like them straight up. That's much better to me. So again, it's always personal preference. So I'm even going to slide this one down more, and then I'm going to just keep wrapping around it. And if you don't like it, you cut it out, right? That's what I do. Okay, so that's giving you another idea of what you can do with this darling clover. So you want to weave the other side, start in the back. You can lift these up if you don't have enough room in between, right here, and make yourself a darling little clover. So I'm just going to take this and continue, and then you could keep coiling. See, I don't like it personally for me in the middle. So what I'm going to do, there's 3 here and there's 3 there. I'm going to separate them out because this is how my mind works, and leave a little gap in the middle. I didn't like that wire in the middle. It's up to you. But I'm just giving you more inspiration of what you can do with this darling little clover. Now, if you did want to hammer it, you would hammer it before you started your weaving inside here. Okay? So let me know your feedback, everybody, and what you think. Thank you so much for being a part of this ancient art of wire. It is truly a magical community. I wish for all of you, as I always do, I wish for all of you all that you wish for yourselves. Have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day and a magical wire wrap day. Bye for now.